Hello and welcome. I'm in conversation with Bipin Chandra. He's the founder and CEO at SSoft Holding. Now, SSoft, as an Indian pioneer in smart grid solutions provider, has expanded its presence across the UAE, KSA, UK, Azerbaijan, and America, along with other CIS regions. SSoft is a part of the Sirus International Holding, a wholly owned subsidiary of Abu Dhabi's international holding company. Bipin, good afternoon and thanks so much for joining in.
Good afternoon, Agam. Thanks for having me here.
Right, Bipin, I want to start off by you elaborating on how the partnership with Adani Energy Solution aligns with SSoft's long-term strategic goals, especially considering the growing demand for smart metering solutions in Indian and international markets.
So if you look at Adani is one of the global player and one of the large energy player. In the Indian market, if you look at now, India is going through a mass transition of all their electricity grids into a smart grids, and one of the major element is the smart metering is the fundamental thing that they're replacing the entire meters. So about 250 million, that is about 25 crore meters to be replaced. And Adani is one of the largest player in this segment. I think this partnership partnering with Adani for us to scale and able to deliver such a large scale is a significant move for us.
Right. If you could just tell us about SSoft's journey growing into transnational global energy solutions provider, a little bit of a background around Sirius, your holding company. If you could just give us an idea about the activities, markets, and business models.
SSoft has been founded in 2014 with the whole vision to contribute to the decarbonization and energy sector being one of the major contributor to the carbon emissions. We wanted to focus on that and what kind of transformation that we can bring it to the sector, and that's where SSoft was founded, and we were one of the first India to be partner to deliver the India's first smart grid, and that's where we've grown from there. And to the near shore, we were in the UAE. Now we're across about 10 plus countries and delivering the sustainability. And Sirus Holding is one of the wholly owned subsidiary of IHC of Abu Dhabi, focuses purely on the technology part of it, or the digital transition part of it, and that's where this falls into this transition. And Sirus Holding also very focused on sustainability, and we completely align towards that goal. Our vision now is to reduce to touch 1 billion lives and reduce 10 billion ton of carbon in the next 10 years. So Sirius Holding focuses on energy, smart grid. It focuses on technology, on the blockchain, AI, analytics, and so on. That's where the whole goal is towards the sustainability.
Right, Bipin, could you also elaborate on SSoft solutions in the energy and water space, and what is the vision as far as the energy sector is concerned?
See, we provide the energy space completely end-to-end, be it power, water, and gas, completely right from the consumer end to the last mile of where both on the upstream and also on the downstream. We also completely take the integration into the carbon credits and also create the national carbon registry. We also provide smart meters. We recently acquired Landis+Gyr India smart metering factory, and we've created a joint venture so that it's called SSoft Landis+Gyr, so that this transitional journey we can also provide the smart meters on the IoT side. In the UAE, we also do the IoT elements of the entire grid elements. So that's what we take care of it.
Right. I also want to touch upon the sustainability solutions as well. What is your vision in this specific area, and how are you looking at solutions in this particular sector?
See, sustainability now, I think we recently had COP28 in the UAE. The whole goal now, everybody is signed up to the net zero goals. And how do we achieve that net zero goals? And that's where SSoft plays a critical role, because smart grids are key strategy to achieve those net zero goals. And in this value chain of achieving the net zero goals, ISOSOF provides a complete end-to-end, right from, as we've talked about, the smart metering platform, which comes under the energy efficiency. Then we have under Sirus Holding, we also do the methane abatement, because that is one of the major contributor for the oil and gas, methane abatement, and also the carbon capture utilization. We also have water efficiency that we want to bring in through the water holding. And then the entire, whatever the decarbonization platform that we're going to create, and that goes a collection of the carbon credits, and then you can actually trade on that. So that's where ultimately the registry, tracking, monitoring the entire value chain of sustainability. Also, the new age technology on the EV, we are very much in the EV charging ecosystem. I mean, definitely India is one of the largest market. You're already seeing in the majority of the cars and the bikes which is going in, but in the globally, the EV vehicles are coming up. And of course, with this partnership with Adani, they are also heavily into both on the renewable side and also on the green hydrogen side. So we want to have on the mobility side. So we want to build in and that green hydrogen mobility. That is the future that's going to come in the long haul sector. That's going to be a major play. So we are playing in that role too.
Right. I want to come back to smart metering infrastructures. SCSoft has implemented some of the largest smart metering infras. What do you see as the most significant innovations in smart grid technology today, and how are they contributing to the goal of decarbonization?
So very interesting question. See, the kind of opportunity that India has created into the smart grid, currently it's a $50 billion, the initial smart metering rollout in the country. I'm only talking about power. Now, this is one of the fundamental element into decarbonization, because as you know, India is committed to add 500 gigawatt on the renewable energy by 2030. And considering that, and Adani is one of the major players in the renewable energy, they're going to be one of the world's largest. And considering that, and a lot of integration that has to happen into the grid. So the new innovations is going to happen is onto the grid integration of the renewable energy into the ecosystem. A lot of EV charging ecosystem is going to be on the play. That is where the new innovation is going to happen, how the grid integration is going to happen.
Right.
And ultimately, a lot of analytics and generative AI. And what it is going to give is all the carbon right now. With this solution, you're able to track, monitor, verify, validate, and able to actually showcase what kind of decarbonization emissions that you're doing, and able to also give it to the consumer what kind of carbon credits that are actually they're contributing into the system. Yeah.
Right. So, Bipin, you did mention quite a bit about on the next question that I have for you. That is, of course, why do you think that India is a major market, and what will your approach be? But I also want you to elaborate a little more about how you're going to address the Indian market with respect to what you've already spoken to us about earlier.
See, I think in the most Indian market, and now it is all a very large play of the rollout. It's a very complex national critical infrastructure. So one is a major partnership with Adani. So that's where we're going to have a major play. Currently, we with 25 million consumer base. We're now moving up to additionally add up to 30 million. With Adani's, we also plan to go up to another additional 70 to 100 million. But we're also working with various other partners. That's where a lot of other partners like Genius Power, they've been great supporter to us. IntelliSmart, which is a government-owned energy efficiency company, so that's been a great support to us. The GMR in India. So we've been working very extensively with them. And this is where what we plan to take it forward in the next journey.
Right. And a final question then, Bipin. Considering the diverse portfolio of the Adani Group, are there plans for further collaborations with other Adani companies, particularly in areas like renewable energy, EV charging, and AI-driven analytics?
No, absolutely. I think they're doing a wonderful job, especially now the new Adani app being released. So I think we will be integrating into the Adani One app. That's going to be one of the critical element. That's where all the data analytics that is going to come into play. Also, I mean, Adani is also utilities, so we're going to major contribute to solutions there. And EV, since we're already working on the EV and renewable integration, I think Adani Green Energy, Adani Mobility. So I think we're going to definitely integrate all our solutions into the ecosystem.
Right, Bipin. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and, well, talking to us about your company. We wish you the best for the future. And thanks once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, India has proven repeatedly in the recent past that it is one of the fastest adopters of technology in the world. And not just that, this is technology that is used at scale in a cost-effective manner. Now, Abu Dhabi-based IHC, through its arm Sirius International Holding, has entered into a joint venture with Adani Enterprises subsidiary Adani Global, and their statement of purpose is to capitalize on the massive potential of India's internet economy. To talk about what that will entail, I have with me Richard Budel, who is the Chief Commercial Officer of Sirius International Holding. Thank you so much, Richard, for taking the time. I will start by asking about what the scope of this joint venture is, and then we'll delve a little deeper into the various opportunities that India presents.
Very good. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. When we talk about the scope of the opportunity, effectively what we've decided to focus on, at least in the beginning, is the application of technology for the sake of social and industrial reform, looking at digital transformation and understanding how we use technology to improve the world that we live in. This was part of the reason, of course, that we selected Adani as a perfect partner, because they have an enormous industrial base that gives us the opportunity to test and prove the technologies that we're looking to implement in a way that we know is going to deliver value. And they bring to the relationship, of course, a massive wealth of deployment experience, but also data, information, and expertise.
Could you talk to me a little bit about the kind of solutions that Sirius International is currently working on? And you say test, so that's why I'm understanding from that you have certain solutions that are currently in place or in the works. So could you take us through the suite that you currently have and what you're working on?
Certainly. So the easiest way to understand the portfolio of capabilities that we have is to think about it in terms of 4 different pillars. So we have a pillar that is focused on deep technology. So the core underpinnings of the current tech landscape, that includes blockchain, that includes artificial intelligence, that includes cybersecurity. So really looking at things from an infrastructure perspective and deep technology. Associated with that, we have a second pillar that focuses on the application of these technologies in the domain of digital government transformation. So we believe that one of the easiest ways for us to impact the world and to impact societies are to work with the governments that provide those societies with services. So we have an arm that is focused on digital government transformation. We have a third arm that is focused specifically on the healthcare side of the equation and bringing technology to the transformation of healthcare, making sure that healthcare is available for all populations. And then fourth and finally, particularly relevant in context of the recent COP28, we have a pillar that is focused on sustainability and making sure that we live in a harmonious balance with our environment. And there we have solutions looking at carbon, methane, water, and making sure that we have the right way to manage that scarcest of commodities, and then helping to build circularity into the economy. In any one of those areas, there are a number of different point solutions, and there are also platforms. If we look, for example, in the digital government transformation domain, we have some application platforms like revenue management. We understand that in government, being able to manage revenue, being able to manage finances is the most core capability. Governments cannot function if they don't have money. So understanding how money flows into, through governments, and then back out is a really key capability for them. And we have a revenue management platform that helps governments to manage that interoperates with their existing systems, with their existing ERP, and then also ties into the retail and the commercial and industrial environments as well.
Okay.
Working with, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Okay. Where we are excited about the partnership with Adani is that Adani, for example, has very complementary expertise in technologies like instrumentation of the environment and the deployment of sensors, increasingly powerful and increasingly small sensors. And being able to bring the combination of core technologies like blockchain and cybersecurity and artificial intelligence to that industrial base that Adani has and is able to bring to the table gives us the chance to start experimenting in some new ways. A lot of the technologies that we talk about have been around for a really long time, but the reality is that the business value behind those technologies, in some cases, is yet to be proven. That's really the focus of what we're trying to do here.
I'm trying to understand these sensors that you're talking about as well. Could you explain that a little bit?
Certainly. When we talk about instrumentation of the environment, we can think about the fact that we can only manage what we can measure, right? And we can only know for what we gather information. And so instrumentation, or the sensorization of the environment, is really focused on deploying temperature, humidity, camera, audio, all kinds of sensors that help us to understand what is currently happening. If we put that in the context of a factory, of course, it becomes very easy to understand how that relates to business value. The more that you can understand about your production lines, how raw materials are being moved through a production process, how many objects you are creating, how much waste you are producing, how much energy you are consuming, you then have the ability to understand how you can optimize those processes, whether that's optimization in order to reduce energy consumption or to reduce pollution or to improve the quality of what it is that you're producing, really depends on the type of business and what the goals and objectives are. But the whole idea behind the sensors is to make sure that we are capturing information we can feed into the artificial intelligence algorithms and use to then make sure that we are building better products in a more environmentally sustainable and economically viable fashion.
Okay, so some of these applications that you're talking about, and you're saying artificial intelligence, my assumption here again is that these models exist and that you're feeding additional data into them to essentially figure out how to have additional solutions provided for processes that exist, say, in India. So I'm trying to understand whether you've had experience of improving efficiency significantly in any of the processes that you've just described, and do you have the intention of replicating that in India? So what is the objective specifically with India?
Okay, so artificial intelligence algorithms, as we have seen with almost any form of technology over the last decades, is only as good as the information that you feed it. Creating the algorithms in and of itself is not particularly difficult, but finding algorithms that actually achieve objectives is a little bit more difficult and is very dependent upon the corpus of information or the body of data that you can feed to it. So in the first instance, what Adani is bringing to the table is the instrumented environment, the expertise of its people that, when combined with some of the technologies that Sirius Holdings is bringing into the partnership, gives us the chance to prove and continue refining those algorithms. And as we start to prove the business benefit that comes, for example, from understanding electronic patient health records and improving health outcomes by drawing a link between treatment methodologies and patient outcomes, we have the ability to ensure that we are getting real value for money when technology is being applied to healthcare, for example. And we have the ability to do that in a way that protects patient safety, that ensures confidentiality, and then can be moved into other areas of the healthcare chain, not only in India, but also across the rest of the world. What we're looking to do is to take this enormous advantage that India has in terms of population size and economic growth, as well as technical sophistication, and use that to prove the things that we're working on so that we can take them out and deploy them in other places as well.
Okay. So you've answered my question fabulously. So therefore, the follow-up to that is Sirius Digitech International, which is the joint venture, 5149. Will that be the entity that sells these solutions both in India and globally going forward?
That is yet to be determined. And when we look at commercial models, it really depends on the region and in some cases even the country that we are going into. The goal of Sirius Digitech right now is to make sure that we are understanding how do we put technology to the good of the environment, the economy, and society, using India as the test bed, using Adani's wealth of resources to prove that business value. Sirius Digitech is then the owner of many of the pieces of intellectual property and many of the technology investments that will come out of that. Whether Digitech is the company, Sirius Digitech is the company that then brings those to other countries and commercializes them, whether we do that through other partnerships will be determined at a later date. And as I said, it will really depend on the region and the countries that we're going into.
Certainly, but the question was, or the intention behind the question was to understand the commercial nature of the partnership going forward and how it will be remunerative to both parties heading into 2030, which you've illustrated is an immense potential, right? You're talking about the technology economy in India reaching as large as what, $1 trillion. So I was trying to understand how that commercial aspect will play out.
Okay, so this is certainly commercial venture. We're going into this right now with the understanding that there is value to be captured, value to be extracted if we are able to deploy technology in the right way. We certainly have selected India, as you rightly pointed out, partly because of the fact that we see the ICT industry contributing up to $1 trillion to the Indian economy in another 7 or 6 years. And we will be looking to capture that value. What we do is look to retain that value for ourselves, because that helps us to invest in further innovative technologies. But there is enough value to be captured that we're able to share that with our customers and with the societies as well. So this is a commercial exercise. We want to make sure that we capture a very large part of that, of course, and we use that to to the benefit of our innovation and research programs. But it's also very much about trying to understand how do we make it economically viable to start addressing some of the really big problems that we have from a social and environmental impact as well.
Certainly. Last question, Richard, which relates to timelines, which I'm sure are very hard to pen down, I guess, but you must have had some thought behind how you would like to see these progressing. Some of these solutions that you say will be built with the test bed that India is and what the Adani Group is providing you with. What are the timelines that you're anticipating on some of the solutions that you intend to develop?
We will start to see value on some of these in 90 days or less. If we think about some of the manufacturing facilities where we have geographically discrete locations, right, and we're able to deploy the technology very quickly in a confined area, we will start to see value moving very quickly. As we start to expand out into ports and the special economic zones where you have larger geographic area, but it is still relatively contained and controlled, we will start to see value flowing in 6 to 12 months. If we look at the more diffuse economic and social impacts across education and across healthcare and across the environment, those are naturally going to take a much longer period of time to mature. But we still see that there's value to be found in the next 24 to 36 months. This is a long-term partnership, and we're going into this with a full understanding of how we can benefit each other, Adani and Sirius. That is really the overarching philosophy behind Sirius Digitech. But we also believe that there is value to be unlocked in very, very short periods of time as well. And that's really the intention behind the deployment of artificial intelligence, is giving us the ability to create a sense and response capability that helps us to understand if we do this today, we see the results of that in a very short period of time. We don't need to wait for 1 or 2 or 3 economic quarters, for example, before we start to see the impact.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Richard, for breaking that down for us, and look forward to touching base with you in maybe 90 days to figure out where the first few solutions are headed. Thank you so much once again for speaking to us.
Thank you. It will be a pleasure.
All right, viewers, do stay tuned. Lots more coming up in just a bit. This is NDTV Profit.